them could have charged her for sin. But a brim, straight cleaning, in search of fucking. But a brim, fully they made examine, figure lose such a sweet browning. But a brim, now it's the dread she call it when she need sexual healing. Anyways, one man lost is another man's gain. If you can't handle the traffic, then stay out the lane. Behind her beautiful smile, she was hiding her pain. You couldn't see the tears due to the falling rain. But with a woman emotions, son, you don't wanna play a game. Then got certain moves that want put you to shame. And then you begging and you balling will all be in vain. When I bet she calling next money. Remember all of the first time you meet it. You have to do that clutch must move to keep it. Candlelight dinner, wine and chocolate. Don't forget the roses, big man, this stock it. You should have me walk her down to the pulpit and remove her sexy ass from off for the market. Your friends don't have no woman, but them calling you whip. And like an idiot, you believe it. But a brim, if you're the woman, but a brim, them gonna charge her for sin. But a brim, straight cleaning, in search of fucking. But a brim, fully made examine, figure lose such a sweet specimen. But a brim, now it's the dread she call it when she needs sexual healing. A woman is a gift unto humanity. Treat her with respect and dignity. Heed the words of the great Tyrus Riley. She royal will treat her like royalty. She works, she cooks, she clean and wash your stinking laundry. All she wanted in return was your loyalty. Could I make her a carnival fully karaoke? Her love just come down and she need a remedy. You met her at the peak of her sexuality. Wrong time to leave a big woman lonely. Pretty like an angel, but she well freaky. And now she feeling horny. Income not a dread to fulfill her fantasy. She blows when I whisper sweet nothing softly. She's on a journey. Onto ecstasy. But a brim, if you're the woman, but a brim, them gonna charge her for sin. But a brim, straight cleaning, in search of fucking. But a brim, fully they made examine, figure lose such a sweet browning. But a brim, now it's the dread she call it when she need sexual healing. Fool him, know him, the holding in palm my hand. Woman recently inherited acres of land. Cassava, cocoa, ganja and yam. Yeah, stripping out the box, make the Cessna land. DJ, turn up the bass and make the dance all ram. See why not the building with a brand new song. Word to the wise, all my youth man, you need exceptional skills to keep a good man. Main ingredient, communication. Stop listening for answer and for listen for overstand. All she ever needed was your affection, your kissing, caressing, and attention. You could have solved this complex equation. So go back on the rock, hence you crawl out from. You get the test and you feel the exam. Now that the dread, they read the diagram. But a brim, if you're the woman, but a brim, them gonna charge her for sin. But a brim, straight cleaning, in search of fucking. But a brim, fool need made examine, figure lose such a sweet browning. But
greetings. Hello.
Hi. Can you
Hi,
hear me?
good evening. Yes, good
Good
evening.
evening.
We are
Oh,
live.
very stuffy. I see. The way to
Mhm.
smack fun.
Mhm. How is everything?
Everything is well. Everything is well.
Mhm.
I'm winding down from the summit.
No, that's the topic right now. Well, here comes the sidekick now. So yeah, I'm gonna leave you guys alone. Have
My
a great
side.
have a great show.
Well,
Thank,
thank you, love.
thank you very much. Good evening. Good evening, Lisa, and good evening to all our audience out there, wherever they are in the diaspora or in the jewel. And our chairman is out for a little bit, but I think he'll be joining us, and Mr. Coe will also be joining us. So how are you doing this evening, Lisa?
I am winding down from the summit. I have a, well, not so fresh cold, but a cold now. Running back and forth from the AC to the hot, surprised weather we had this weekend here in California.
Yeah, and even today was a nice sunny day, warm, and not too much clouds in the sky I could see. And
Right.
I don't know what it is like in Belize, but probably at some point you could give us a little rundown on what you take and meeting all the officials from Belize and the grouping from the diaspora that participated. From all indications, I think it was a well turned out and well received from the from the people that attended. That's what I heard.
Yes, it was well attended. The we captured what we needed to capture for it being the first summit in LA. We were able to assist many. We those appointments I believe there were 100 appointments per day, and each day we had over 150 to 200 people just walk in.
Yeah.
So Saturday, for instance, there was 300 walk-ins for Lands Department.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I must confess that I stayed until 3:30 in the morning
Oh,
on into Sunday morning. That's the time that we shut it down. I have a newfound respect for the Lands Department. Honestly, those guys work tirelessly every night. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. They were, we were all there until 2 o'clock in the morning.
okay. Well, that's good. That's good. And I know there was some presentation by the Prime Minister. Did the leader of the opposition made any comments, public comments while he was there? I know he had private conversation, but I didn't see anything where he made any public presentation.
I don't recall him being a panelist.
Okay.
At any given point within the 3 day services. I mean, I do know that there was a panel, a round, what do you call it, a round circle chat
Discussion, yeah.
with discussion with Nuri Muhammad, which I
Yeah.
understand was a well received discussion. I was unable to attend because, of course, I was volunteering for the other for the ministry and the immigration department, so I didn't have an opportunity to sit in on the conversation. However, from those who attended, I understand that it was very thought provoking for some
Yes.
who of course who had never met him and who are a little bit confused about his vision
Right.
as the opposition leader. So I can't speak on behalf of it again because I did not attend. I do know he attended several other functions within the summit in itself. I didn't have that opportunity. I did, as well as I didn't have the opportunity to hear our prime minister speak.
Yeah.
From
He only spoke on Saturday at the gala, I think ahead of the gala, right? Or did he speak?
no. He spoke in the capacity of his ministry, I believe, on Friday morning.
I see.
And then there was a luncheon that he had with a few businessmen and investors that also attended this luncheon.
Okay.
So there was also a luncheon that he attended and where he spoke during the luncheon. And I met him very, very briefly. I was not involved with the daily to-dos with panel discussions as my my work was mostly with the outside public. So I didn't get to see any. I didn't get to have any conversations with dignitaries that were here on behalf
Belize.
of the summit and Belize.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I guess from all indications, then we'll probably over the time just get some feedback and see how they respond and how people feel about, the action that follows from this presence. But I think the presence was well appreciated and probably well overdue. And we're glad that they made that effort, I'm sure, because
Right.
it brought, I was going to say, it brought to point some needs that needed to be addressed within the diaspora community.
Right, and I also want to clarify a little bit too, because I saw some comments on social media regarding the dignitaries or delegates that were here, that they're spending money to come to to these places, and they're spending the people's money and so forth. And I just wanted to address that the Prime Minister was here on behalf of the ministry that he conducts, which is finance and development and that kind of thing. He was not here in the capacity of the Prime Minister in politics. That was not was not his role call here. And he very well, from my understanding, established in his speech that of which he conducts as his ministry.
Right.
And so did the other ministers, Honorable Musa, who was also.
I don't think Musa was here. Was
yes,
Karim Musa here?
Honorable, yes, he spoke on the first day, I believe.
Okay.
He spoke on the first day. He was a panelist as well.
Okay. No, I agree with you. I'm sure it costs money, and people were complaining. Some people made comments about that. I don't know about complaining. But there's nothing wrong in the government doing what it is supposed to do in addressing the needs of its people, and spending money to take care of those, to come here and meet the people and to get our concerns, both on terms of the inadequacy of meeting our needs in terms of lands and other issues like that. It's important, and so I don't have a problem with that type of spending. It seems quite justified to me. The diaspora is an important part of the Belize community. They contribute greatly to the development of the country, to the gross domestic product, through our transfer payments and remittances, and also through the gifts of barrels and stuff that we send down. And even most Belizeans, even when they live in the diaspora, they pay taxes because they own property in Belize. They have businesses in Belize that pay taxes. So I have no problem in him coming out here and meeting us and addressing us, and of course it's going to incur some costs to the nation for that.
But and again, I want to I really truly want to commend the Belize American Chamber of Commerce Association and the Diaspora Summit Network for collaborating and putting this summit together for us. I found it to have been very successful, in the sense that for so long we've cried for service. And we were and they delivered. The Ministry of Immigration and the Ministry of Lands delivered. First and foremost, Ms. Tanya, who's the CEO of the Ministry of Immigration, and her director and her entire staff, Miss Margaret Hernandez, Miss Dita. I mean, those women worked tirelessly for 5 days while they were here 3 of those days in Santa Monica and 2 days at the LAX Marriott. So I want to commend them for their, for their tireless effort in making sure that they captured everyone that came to the door. I want to say that people were coming all the way from Alabama, Colorado, Nevada, Arizona.
Wow.
So this was not only a LA thing, quote
Right.
unquote.
Right.
We were talking about Belizean communities far and near. And to hear the stories of, hear the stories of the distances they were traveling to a weekend
Mm-hmm.
a weekend summit, not knowing if they would be seen, taking the
Right.
risk.
Right.
There was a family that her daughter is a truck driver. Her daughter found out that this was going to be the passports were going to be applications were being taken. She called her family out on the road, picked
Mhm.
them up, and drove 10 hours from what
Right.
a matter of 10 hours to to pull up at the LAX Marriott just to
Yes.
find out that they were closed. And I
Oh.
must tell you, I walked down that corridor, and I said, listen, this is a family, she's a senior, and they need it. Would you guys be willing to let them in? And you
Mhm.
know what? The director walked down back to the corridor at the registration desk with me and personally walked them back to the area and had them take care of what they needed to take care of, provided them what they needed to do in order to continue the process when they returned in the future. So that alone,
That was
the
very
service
gracious. That was
it
very
was
gracious.
very gracious, and to see that these things to see it happen, and I experienced it firsthand, witnessed it firsthand, just goes to show you that we are making a difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
and
And
often
that's what I want to see.
no, I was going to say often we hear that they don't have quite the hospitality atmosphere in accommodating people, but this seems like they went out of their way to make things happen in this instance, and we hope that that becomes infectious and that it continues to be a pattern of how our government and our civil service provides services to our citizens.
Right. And the same and I must say I'm not sure how much involved the other volunteers were with the different ministries, but I was definitely I definitely made it my mission to make sure that I provided not only us the people who need service the attention they needed, but also provide the attention the civil workers needed as well. The workers inside, I'm telling you, Gregory, none of them took a break. None of them had a lunch break, a dinner break, any breaks. They literally worked through what we would consider here breaking labor codes. Here at that fifth hour you better be taking that lunch because
Right.
we're going to be fine.
Mhm.
These women and men absolutely took no breaks, none. They were eating under the table. They took 2 minutes to take a bite, and while we sat, so I just have to commend the ministries for what they did, and they wanted to make sure everyone was seen, and that was their goal. They wanted everyone to be heard and seen. They wanted the service to be done properly, and they did. They did. They went out of their way to give those services. I mean, same with the deputy prime minister, he was not here as a deputy prime minister, but he was here as the minister of natural resources, and he sat at that table hours and hours. The night before, his flight was delayed, so he came in very late. even the night that he arrived, he sat for about 3 hours to do some paperwork for lands for the next day. Then the following 2 nights, I am telling you, I was there with with all of them, and he sat there on the Saturday night. He could barely walk to his room.
Wow.
He was exhausted,
Well,
exhausted.
that's
Never took a break.
yeah, that's good to know that they made that effort, and I'm sure it's going to be appreciated by all the people that had these issues outstanding and needed the help. And so that's great.
Right.
We hope that they see the worth in it, and that it becomes something that we can count on. Not maybe every couple of years or something like that. To kind of
Right.
push things along. Good evening, Mr. Cowie.
Good evening, sir.
I was just getting a rundown from Lisa on her impression on how the summit went, and it seems like from all indication it was a wonderful turnout, and we had good representation and also good effort on the part of the ministry in trying to meet the needs of the local diaspora community. So and they seem to have extended itself beyond the boundaries to try to accommodate us within the short time frame, realizing that the demand and the needs was so intense for the services that they were offering.
Right.
I heard about it and I was following up on them.
Yes,
What
I know
comes,
it. I know it was covered on XTV for a bit of it, right?
yes, so what comes to my mind, quite frankly, and I must give credit to all the efforts that were made by those at home and abroad.
Yes.
And I just hope it remains as a source of inspiration for sustainability. It's not just a show for this time and then
Yes.
retreat back into our shell. I hope it will be inspiring to us as a people to know that we
Yes.
have to live together and we build the bridges between
Yes.
diaspora and beliefs.
Yeah.
But it must be sustainable and long lasting.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. That is a nice stretch arm to the diaspora in maintaining that bridge. I don't think we need to build it. I think it exists. I just think that sometime we need to paint it up and move away the rust and keep it in our prayers and keep everybody hopeful that
What
we're all out for the same objective.
I would like to ask some questions on it really is that yes, it was a nice coming together and they did clear up some backlog with immigration issues, I understand, and with land issues. But what specifically would you say that came out of the meeting that is to give the sustainability, as you said, not to build a bridge, but to sustain that bridge? What do you think took place at that session?
Well, I didn't get to go. Lisa was there, but
Yes,
I did chime in on some of the activities while it was live. I think some people may have shared it on Facebook or in other ways, but I did see some of it, and I was quite inspired and quite happy that they had the attendance and they had some of the performance and such.
I
But Lisa could talk a little bit more about what was happening on the ground.
yeah, because I understand, the emotional impact it may have had on us all, and I support that fully. I do, but I was hoping indeed that there could have been some issues, some specific issues. For example, yes, we dealt with immigration, we dealt with land. Now, what are we looking at to be able to use the bridge and to build on it in the sense of, are we thinking about trading? Are we thinking about investment? Are we thinking about transfer of technology? Are we thinking about education, health?
Right.
What are the things that we are thinking about to enhance and to make it mutually beneficial?
Mm-hmm.
I always believe that when we think of the diaspora, we think of Belize,
Yes.
and that the diaspora is out there. And I don't like to liken it to the case of Israel, but the reality is that so it has been with Israel. It was the people of Israel who are not in Israel that helped to build Israel
Yes.
and to make it what it is. So I was hoping that in this round will come now, what is it that we plan to do rather than maybe just set up things to be able to get land and to be able to deal with immigration issues.
Yeah.
But issues beyond that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. But for that to happen, we need to see the diaspora organize itself like it did back in the late 80s, early 90s when we had the consortium. I think that was a very active part of the diaspora. It showed them up. It gave them opportunities to participate in what was going on in Belize, not only in the politics of it, but also in the philanthropic endeavors. Because through that was birthed many of the efforts we see today with people participating in sending medical supplies or providing dialysis type infrastructure to help out, or even with clothing and stuff that we see, and in some instances with education. So I'm sure that this, I think once the diaspora feel that they're not ignored and they're connected, and that in the representative of government that is recognized, I think there will be more motivation to do things that are more central and centric to the structure of our governance, and not only the role they have been playing, which is more to individual or to very heartfelt projects that they may have, but to the broader issue that you spoke of investment or any of those type of thing, transfer and stuff,
Yeah,
to
I like the topic, and if you don't mind, I want to just share some thoughts with you all. And it is that I
please.
understand the social philanthropic aspect of it, because no doubt they have been very helpful in education, particularly in health. From my experience as a minister of health, they have very extremely helpful. But I'm going beyond the social philanthropic aspect of the unity, the coming together. We have just passed what you call the Securities Industries Act, which is to strengthen the movement of capital.
Yes.
So I would have thought that here was an area where hopefully we can attract some investments into Belize through the diaspora,
Yeah.
through some of these financial instruments,
Yeah.
which will give them a foothold that they will. It's not that just Belize must benefit, and it's Belizeans that are here, but they too must benefit.
Yes. Well,
Uh,
that's what investment is, right? Both party has to walk
right.
away with some benefits, or it
Yes.
doesn't happen.
Yes. So I would wish now the next session, if there is such a thing as a next session,
Yes.
you will begin to now move away from what was more the face of this meeting.
Yeah.
Which, yes, it was about immigration, about land, it's about hope, it's about inspiration. Can we now develop something that will become more lasting in terms of the investment is one, the transfer of technology.
Yes.
I had the opportunity in the past to meet with many Belizeans in America, and to hopefully to try to get them involved in Belize in investments. But I am almost certain that there are some areas which can benefit both. I believe that the area, for example, yes, we have been funding tourism, and that's good, and we can get them involved in that. But I think the area mostly is to help us to springboard the industrialization.
Yes.
And this is where I think the government can make the effort to lead the way, to see the foundation, to see the kind of public company, and to get the diaspora to be able to invest in Belize,
right,
through the ventures or shares, etc.
And part of the I think the Prime Minister came as Minister of Finance, if I'm not wrong, also, if that's his portfolio. But he also spoke on investment, and I think according to Lisa, there were some sessions with business people and investors. I don't know how much of those were actual Belizeans or whether they were foreign investors that he had met with, but he did have a working session, I understand, with investors. So and to include Belizeans in that, I think is important. And so this session came up kind of quick, although it's been announced for like a month and a half or so. It still came up kind of quick. I think to kind of really get investors, we need to kind of plan it a little longer so that we could start making the movement on our part. Like if we say in a year from now there'll be an investment summit to attract diaspora, I think then that gives the diaspora the working time they need to kind of organize themselves and put together what type of investment group they could build to participate in something that they have to come up with the initiative, but could say, hey, we want to invest in this particular type of project. What type of opportunity will the government affords us so that we could make this investment? So I think the footstone has been laid, and I think that with a little bit more planning and a little bit more notice, the diaspora needs to get on its heels and start doing its part to make sure that we continue from this stepping point.
I think there's a gentleman there asking a good question. He said, what is there for you to invest in Belize?
Oh, I think there are lots. Yeah, I think beyond just the tourism you talked about, industrial infrastructure.
Well, let me share with him what is it that there is to invest in. We had with the Inter-American Development Bank a project done in Belize by 3 distinguished gentlemen. They are from Egypt, and one of them I think is from Israel, by the way, and then the other one was from the United States. And they did some study on Belize, and they came up with several projects, which were all value-added projects using agriculture as the base, and even gave us some new techniques, how to enhance productivity and how to carry out better farming, etc., transportation and whatnot. But everything was all set up because the whole purpose was to attract investors, so that if you are interested to invest, you don't really have to come and look around. You can do that too, but you can come and look at what has already been done. So that's why I am now speaking of it, because the act was recently passed for the Securities Industry Act, which is to build the capital market. So I think we have in place a framework clearly to attract Belizeans from abroad to bring their capital in small amounts, but in the aggregate it could be great. If you look at the remittances, which I was corrected on, and I think you did a good job in correcting me. If you look at the remittances being sent, and you mentioned it was somewhat, you had said it
300 million.
That's 300 million. Now, evidently, that was not a quid pro quo as such.
Right.
It was to send more as to help people here at home, their families, and so.
Yes.
Now, I know 300 million can go a far way if you were putting it into shares or into the benches and whatnot. So I think the next summit should be done through a program, giving it the initiative from this platform that we are on right now, to try to formulate a position now and to look at investment. And of course, you can look at other areas. We have we have already explored the social philanthropic areas, and we see ever since putting just emphasis on that, we are more like becoming mendicants over people abroad, begging them, helping them. But it's about time we have it as a win-win.
Yes.
And that is how I think one of the ways they can earn their way in to perhaps what they might be aspiring or claiming for more involvement in the political aspect of our lives. So if they can, in fact, develop interest and having ownership, equity in terms of worth, physical worth. And I think it can work, because I've seen it work in other countries pretty well.
Of course it can.
Many of these countries, trust me, what they have been doing, and we can go through the research and we can find them. What they do, America was the greener pasture for them in their period of early development. So many of their people went to America. But what they did after, they gave opportunities for their people in the countries that they came from to be able to invest back into the country. And once they begin to invest, then they begin to have ownership. Then as they had the ownership, they were beginning to then take advantage of what the Constitution gives them entitlement to, because they are Belizeans. Anyhow, let's hope that we can move this diaspora Belizean connection forward. I would really like to see it happen. Before
I agree. I agree with you. The investment opportunity and the vehicle to sort of sustain something like that is important. I mean, I don't know exactly what type of industrial business is appropriate, but you mentioned we have great opportunity with our agricultural infrastructure to continue to develop that, and we could look at little niche markets that could also be part of export, and it could be something very small. I mean, we could start very small and we could grow it. We have seen how Miss Sharp developed the pepper, the pepper business, right? The pepper sauce business there. And I don't know what she earns or anything like that, but it does provide significant amount of employment for the farmers that are growing the pepper. It provides an industrial base and development for the people that are bottling it and exporting it. And so even little markets like that, if you could capture 10 million here, 10 million there, you could see the growth in it. And I think those are opportunities where people in the diaspora could make relatively small investment coming together. Lisa mentioned that someone had asked the question, does Belize has a stock market? And no, we do not. But as you mentioned, Mr. Cowie, we have laid the infrastructure for the Security Industrial Act. So all those we suspect are going to build and give us the opportunity to come together in creating investment vehicles so that people could know that there's transparency and accountability, and that there's a legal framework to what they're doing, and feel confident in the investment that they're making, and that it will succeed or fail based on the truism of what, how they're managing it, and how they're making it, satisfy the consumers and the market that they're aiming for. I mean, also Belize have some exotic wood, and I always thought, instead of just exporting our redwood and some of our other more wood, we could make furnitures. There's an incredible market in Europe and the United States and Canada and other places for furnitures that are made from rosewood and those type of products, rather than just us shipping those raw material out.
That's precisely what that exercise that was done some years ago about. Instead of we exporting the raw material, let's value add the raw material. Because what has been happening, much of what we were exporting in raw material came back to Belize as manufactured goods.
Yes.
Right.
So we saw where we could have begun to value add.
Yes.
And I was a part of a group. There were three of us. I as the accountant, and we had an economist, and then we had an engineer, social engineer. Well, sorry, he was more industrial engineer. And the paper was prepared for the government to use to springboard industrialization. And we were proposing, in a nutshell, that the government would seed it by putting the first amount of capital. The government would guarantee the dividends. Yeah. They can guarantee. Yeah. The government will be able to remove the 15% tax, which was very much of a disincentive, and the dividends.
Mm-hmm.
And that we show where many other financial instruments could have been developed, like debentures, convertible debentures.
Mm-hmm.
So it's to develop more instruments that are tradable and moving within the market. So if you want to invest in whatever instrument in a company, whether it's convertible debentures, shares, to know that you can invest and it is tradable, that you can say, well, okay, if I put in money today, if I want it back from these maybe in the next 6 months or so, I can get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the incentives is that to remove the tax, the 15%, which is is a disincentive. So those are things that we can do, but I think you mentioned a very important point, because that is what they were developing this investment model. That rather than we taking our raw materials and export them, even with fruits, with bananas, with all these things, we were to value add them.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyhow, let's move forward and hope that the bridge now, which has been built, can be sustained.
That is the goal, I'm sure. As we look at investment, there are lots of opportunities. It doesn't all come to mind immediately, but if someone was to sit down and look, Belize is an emerging country, right? And so it needs everything every other country out here has. And so if we could find ways, I believe, to make sure that people feel safe, and also that the like you said, you could recover your money in a reasonable time. There's that vehicle that allows us to buy and sell the shares or the debentures or whatever vehicle we're using. If that exists, it will encourage people to come in and to participate. And so I'm sure as we work through it, those are going to be what will make the difference. We
Well,
need to kind of go.
sorry. Yeah, this would be an opportunity if you allow me to. I have been involved in the last 3 days, and tomorrow we have the final. We are looking at model legislations because we are moving a step forward in the integration movement with the Caribbean community. And we had already signed the treaty and the agreement for the free movement of labor, capital, etc. But they are beginning now with the movement of labor, which is in terms of graduates, university graduates, and professionals,
Mhm.
which is part of the single market economy.
Yes,
So,
that's through CARICOM. That's through CARICOM, or
yeah, the CSME, we were first, there are 3 levels towards a union. The first level is the free trade, which was Carifta for us.
yes.
We are at the second level now of the single market economy. I don't know if we'll ever reach the third. The third is a union, like the European
Right.
Union.
Yes, yes.
But the point I wanted to raise in the context of the same issue of the diaspora investing in Belize is that apart from the market we have in the United States, there is a market of 135 million people within the
The Caribbean.
sub-region of the Caribbean, Central America.
Right.
So that is a pretty large market right there in itself. And we are now, as I said, moving towards harmonization of policies and framework for professionals,
Mhm.
doctors, lawyers, accountants.
Engineers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have listed about 16 different professions, which
Okay.
we are looking to harmonize, that we have the same laws right across
Yeah.
the country, the same
Yeah. So
requirements, the
so
same
you have reciprocity across the entire.
right, and then we have a single registration.
Right.
So once I register, I
Mhm.
can move any part in the region. If I register, I am a practicing qualified accountant, where we are
Right.
more harmonized. And I want to go and do work in Jamaica or go to Trinidad or Barbados, I can go with my certificate that I have, and I can practice like anybody else there.
Right.
So I'm mentioning it only because there's a move towards deepening and broadening the integration movement. And this is where I'm again emphasizing. When I look at what I understand, somebody said, and this show it could have been, that they have registered and know that there are about 50,000 people, which we can call Belizeans. I don't know how true it is, but that's a good amount compared to the size of Belize. Huh?
Yeah. I think it's a couple 100,000 people that are in the diaspora that are Belizeans, and probably those ones are Belizeans that left Belize at some point, and have had children in
We don't
the
have a
United.
record of how many
No,
people in
with that,
the
we
US
don't we
and
don't have that. We don't have that as yet. I think that's one of the things the diaspora ambassador is trying to figure out how they can come up with some figures. It is a tough one. It's a tough one, and that's why I think they're asking people to register and just tell how many people are in your family. Something like that, and so they could start getting some real appreciation for it rather than just be guessing and having some kind of anecdotal type of reference, you see.
maybe Lisha can enlighten me on this. When we all think of the diaspora, we are thinking about people who are of Belizean nationality, or just people who happen to be third, fourth generation Belizean but are not Belizean.
I think when we refer to the diaspora, we're thinking first generation born Belizeans, and also those second and third. I think it's incorporated in all. Primarily, though, the government. I'm not, and I don't want to say that this is how they look at it, but I think they want to capture the natives, the born Belizeans, the ones that were born in Belize as their core.
Yes.
And of course, we want to embrace our third and second generations through descent. But I think they're specifically referring to the core.
Born.
the board.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the case.
I can make a suggestion, which I did raise when I was involved myself. You have Belizeans who are already holding Belizean nationality by passport, let's say.
Yes.
Then you have some Belizeans who had missed the boat in the sense that they didn't take advantage of the Belizean by descent. So you have the adoption, you have born in the country, the adoption and the descent.
Right.
So what I was hoping that we could do, that those who have missed the boat in the first, second generation for descent, that is where I would like to see that we can offer these people still Belizean nationality. Simply if they miss the boat by the descent, maybe they miss it by generation, is to open it up to them, give them the opportunity to still be Belizeans, because they have missed just one generation of descent.
Yeah.
But that was one of the things that we were discussing back then, and I wish they could look at it. Because what we want, I would say, is not just to say, well, listen, yeah, my great grandfather was Belizean, and I feel like I want to have connection. Well, so was my great grandfather was an African or a Mayan.
Yeah.
But I am saying no, that let's try to see how we can make them Belizean.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and I like Lisa said, I think the effort of the government is probably to get that first born Belizean to understand what those numbers are, and to move from there to the second and third. I don't know how much of the third is still on, but I know the second is well on still. So those people, we see them with all type of skills. We see them with business skill, we see them with athletic skill, and they have interest in Belize. They have deep interest in the welfare and the well-being of the country. I'm talking just from experience with my family, my kids, my nieces, my nephews. The young people that's here, they seem to have more fervor for Belize than myself. They drive around with the Belize flag flying in their car, So and they visit Belize. They every opportunity they get, they're there. So there is that love for the country, and it should be encouraged. And I think efforts like the diaspora summit involves that. I am hoping that in the future we could attract more young people to these events. I didn't see, I wasn't present myself, but I didn't see many young people. And I'm thinking that probably in the future we organize panels that have focus and features for the young people. And it will be a slow growth in that regard, because young people.
Gregory.
Mr. Morrison, I'd like to really congratulate you on something you said, because it slipped me. One of the most important things, not the most, but one of the most, you said it just now, the human capital formation. The amount of capital that is in the United States, Belizean by second, first generation, that to me is the greatest one of the resources that can be transferred to Belize, the human capital formation. So you touched on it just so that was very important. Very important.
Right, and just to let the summit did have a youth panel discussion.
Oh, they did.
Yes, they did, which was headed by Miss Kalila Hyde. And she had both Destiny.
Oh, yes, they did. Yeah. Destiny Arnold, yes.
It's Arnold or Wagner? No, I think it's
Maybe
Wagner.
Wagner.
Yes. And another young lady, I cannot remember, Ari Suknandan.
Yes.
Both Belizean young ladies. They were, what we couldn't find was a young male. And they made it, very, very clear that they tried to find a young male who would be willing to express himself as on the panel. However, those two young ladies, those three ladies brought some intense conversations to the panel, with the view of where the youths are concerned.
Hmm.
The Sports Council was also there at the summit, and their mission was to reach out not only to the diaspora but to us, to our families at home, in retrospect, in trying to garner funds to support the different sport activities and extracurricular activities outside of the school curriculum in Belize. So we also had Mr. Myers, who is I believe is a co-host with Mr. Christopher Broster on the Sea Smoke 5 o'clock
Yes.
show. He also attended as part of the panel discussion, as a coach, and what his views are in bringing that or bridging that gap with the youths, where school and scholarships and academics are concerned. So there, it was impactful what they all contributed on each panels. And I think the next time the summit have these discussions, they will they'll have a better understanding on how to how to present and incorporating the youth more so, especially bringing the male perspective into the discussion and the conversations, I should say.
Well, that's good. I wasn't aware. I did know that Destiny was going to be on the program, but I forgot about that, and I didn't see that particular presentation. So thanks for drawing our attention to that we had youth presence. But that is very important because that's where we're going to leave it, right? It's with the young people, and we need them to be involved in all the affairs of the country, the business, the governance, and the social life of it, athletic, in all these. That's where we expect them to be.
Right. And I must say, there was quite a bit of young, of young, a young group of youths there as well. I would say no more. I would say anywhere between 18 and 30. Some of them were happy to be getting their Belize nationality through parent, through their descent, through their
Hmm.
parents. They
Hmm.
stood in line with their parents, excited. I have, while I don't have any videos to show the excitement, I know for sure. My cousin, my aunt, and my uncle was there, and their son, who attends the was. Oh, what was that? He was very excited. He was very excited to be able to process his application for his Belizean passport. Um, there was other families there, so I know that the youths are there, and they love who we are. They
Yeah.
love Belize. They love the Belizean culture, and they want to be a part of what makes us, and what makes us every day. Who we are as an everyday people. So and then, like I said, there was a lot of families there with their young adult children, not only for nationality but for people that came and wanted to check on
Land.
their and they were transferring property to their children, all filing those applications as well. So we're reaching out, and hopefully that we could reach out on a broader spectrum, within the next year or two.
Yeah, and what makes it sustainable is what we were saying. If it becomes mutual beneficial to both parties, right? If the
Correct.
diaspora can benefit, and if the people in Belize can feel that they're benefiting, and that is true investment vehicle, right? That's where people get their most angst at. Money talks, right? Money talks. And so if we are able to continue to develop the infrastructure for the security, through the Security Act, I think, and it becomes easy to form corporations, and it becomes easy to hold its leadership accountable and transparent and stuff, and right now I think in Belize, it's very cumbersome, as we had learned through some processes, to just set up a bank account. And I know that is through the financial disclosure and stuff that they have going with the United States to prevent money laundering and stuff. But if we and our banking system can streamline that for the diaspora, so that they can make transfer of money, and if the central bank makes it some way okay that we can also remove our investment and remove money back and forth when we need cash and stuff in the United States, I'm sure that those are all going to be good to make people feel comfortable in making those investments, Mr. Colley.
So, well, I know that there would be no problem in repatriating of profits, especially when you are engaged in value-added industries. Countries that go heavily into the industrialization in value-added, they didn't even bother with some exchange controls because there was no need to. For the reason that the value-added makes it mandatory that money will have to remain. So I think the Dominican Republic did it. I was there during a period when they were making some amendments, and then I was in Panama during the free zone, and they were following the same thing. Is that, listen, make us value add, invest in the country. We did not even restrict you, apart from the money laundering and terrorism act, which again is something that I think we need to look at again. But I think that the moving of capital, which will be important for people, Belizean particularly, but anybody for that matter. But
any investor.
I hold that strong belief. I tried it. I'm telling you, I tried with Belizeans in America in 3-4 projects already. It was not all wonderful, but I still would like to see it happen because it's the thing that binds us together. Trade is what binds people together.
Yes.
We find that when we were trying to develop trade with Guatemala, one of the primary purpose was to lessen the tension between the two countries.
Yes.
So I think we must remain one of the in the forefront. I would suggest in terms of binding the ties.
And you know, Belize has this issue with imported fuel, right? And we know that solar farms Belize have so much sun. Investment could be made in that type of opportunity so that we would reduce our burden and reliance on diesel fuel, and even from our wonderful neighbor in Mexico, if we make these type of investment. If we identify those, first thing I'm saying, we need to identify where the opportunities are for collaborative investment, right? Where we could where groups of people could come together under a cooperative or whatever form of vehicle they want to kind of create to make these investments, and then the opportunity, and then identify what we want to do and have it legalized and accountable.
Well, you have just again identified an area which is solar energy, and then if you have the benefit of getting hold of the report of the the report from BEL, they had the annual general meeting I think last week. And evidently, it's not looking good for them because it's at the point now where they begin to have losses, and it's simply because the different levels of energy being sold to the company. They try to get first as much as they can from the lowest price, but because of the demand, what is happening? By the time you reach the third levels of prices, you're beginning to get diminishing return. Because the price you're charging, the company is charging, is simply based on the mix. But what is happening to them now? They are saying if they do not find some alternative source of energy, the company will be in serious trouble. So when you said solar, you have it right. That is an area that I would hope then could develop in.
Yeah, and I know we currently, the government does have a contract with Saudi Arabia where they're going to be
They're hoping
doing
that
some solar.
That's right. They do getting money from there.
Yeah. Yeah, but that is definitely one of there's still significant lack even when that comes online. And so those seem to be areas that you could do investment. The proper legislation will have to be in place and such. The buy-in with the utility company, BEL, will have to be there. But those are definitely identifiable projects that could be made. And we should not forget the base agriculture, right? Agriculture seems to be a place where we can definitely go back on time after time. And as you had indicated, there is a market, not just to the United States, but throughout the entire Caribbean. Many of these Caribbean islands, they don't really have the land resource to do agricultural, major and large agricultural production. And Belize, I understand, has a very good climate and a very good soil pattern to to accomplish some significant agricultural development. I know we keep talking about sometime the citrus industry was leaving, and I don't know why uh, that was happening, but we do know that there is opportunities.
I mean, look at the banana industry. The banana industry for many years have been a staple of the Caribbean exportation, not only in Belize.
Caribbean, and yes,
Um,
yes,
you know, um, that's we should also we should rethink our strategies with the banana industry. Plantain, I
yeah,
mean,
uh,
plantain is huge here.
yeah.
uh, I mean, have you bought a plantain lately? I
And
mean,
you know what? And like you were saying, like we were saying, the, making that a value added product, the plantain chips, right?
plantain, right. I mean, I'll give you a good example. I went to the store the other day. No lie, I should have taken a picture of it. Half a bag of plantain chips, the half of the bag, the full of air, and the lip at the bottom, 12.99 US. It doesn't even weigh a pound.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
plantain chips. It's not even a pound. Can you imagine that the
yeah,
only one plantain they have in a bag? If you think about it, it's
yeah,
only one plantain a chips the chips you have in the bag
yeah, yeah. No,
for
I know.
12.99 a bag.
Yeah,
Uh, uh,
and and in our agricultural product, I look at when the mango season, the abundance of mango, and
oh my goodness,
I
yes.
wonder why we can't do the dehydration process that we see in bags that we have here. And a little bag of like 3 pounds sell for like $17 at Costco. And I go, why can't we
I mean,
approach some of these industries and
right,
start nibbling at it, until we
right, and
develop.
considering sorry to cut you off, Gargi, but
No
just
problem.
look at it. Imagine considering that mangoes have 30 something plus species, and Belize is a host of over 18 different mangoes, I believe. Is that correct, Mr. Koi? I'm not quite sure. But
Well, I
Belize
think
is in a
more, but
realm.
I know from my experience by eating them, there is a wide variety.
Right. One of my favorites was Slippers Mango. I couldn't wait to eat Slippers Mango. Um, and that alone, you know what I mean? We should delve into. I mean, that is still part of agriculture, but the mango industry is a huge industry. People in Far East Europe are not even aware that mangoes exist. I have a client that didn't even know an avocado existed until she came to California. She said the first time she saw an avocado, she was like, "I'm not eating that."
Yeah.
And then someone made it into guacamole, and she was eating what she wasn't going to be eating. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So it just
yeah,
goes to show that there's industries. We have, look at avocados. We
yeah,
have butter avocado. We have the other, well, I don't know about the butter one, but then the
yeah,
big fat juicy one. You don't even
yeah,
need salt with those. You eat those like fruit.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
No,
You see,
we do.
what I think that can help to develop that very agricultural sector is that if you notice today, what I call the alternative medicine is rapidly making waves in America. There was a time when the American population generally were not supportive of alternative medicine because it was more a Asiatic thing, which is the lifestyle, the kind of food you eat. Which you don't know that Japan has a population which is the longest lifespan in the world. So for a person to live to 100 in Japan is nothing unusual. You know, they normally would go, most people would go to 100. But it's because one of the things, I mean, apart from, you know, the happiness,
Lifestyle, yeah.
but it's what you eat. And if you look at the things that we have in Belize, if you listen to Dr. Ben Carson, you know him, the famous Ben Carson.
Yes, this neurosurgeon.
Yes, he says that he has found something. And he mentioned from the different herbs, the different plants, turmeric is one, which is to now address the issue of enlarging prostate in men. And that they do not take these kind of chemicals that the laboratories are putting out. And it's all from marine, it's all from agricultural products. So the point I wanted to make is that Belize, with its wide diversity indeed of different products, if we promote the nutritional aspect of them, not just for their taste, but for their values to us in terms of our life, the various things that are in those things that could help the different organs. For example, I think, I'm not the doctor, so I don't want to be pretending to be one, but much of our disease and our illnesses is caused from inflammation of the cells.
Yes.
So if you can prevent that inflammation, which can be done, for example, the grape, the same grape from red wine is anti-inflammatory. So is turmeric. So is soy milk. They are all. So if you begin to promote our food, not simply by saying, well, you know, eat a mango because it is nice, but try to advertise it for the benefit it brings to you. In terms of prevention, that you don't have to be using these lot of chemicals, these synthetic pills and whatnot. So that is one of the areas, again, that, and I wanted to point out, there was a thing done sometime, Lady Lisha, which started by Belizeans in LA and in New York. What they were doing, and the Jamaicans apparently was also looking at the same thing. They were trying to identify the population, not necessarily holding nationality, but known to be of Belizean generation. So what they saw was if you have 40,000 people of that type, which we very well have in maybe in LA itself, they are showing you the extrapolation from the 40,000 could give you anywhere up to 500,000 or more. And how we could have developed niche market.
Yes.
Right in the United States with Belizeans, rather than having to come here, we would then sell our products there. And then they will do the marketing and the distribution.
Well, that's what's happening with the pepper sauce. You know, you could we see that very little cottage industry of it, where I'm sure it's many Belizean that buys it. But I went to Firehouse, which is a restaurant that sells burgers, and on their counter was Belize pepper sauce, and I was so proud of it. You know, I was like, wow, they have arrived. They like our pepper sauce, and so it's in this restaurant. And
the one that we were thinking of was not to find a pepper sauce in a mall with thousands of other products of American, European, and Chinese, but they will go to a place where it will be marked and characterized as Belizean.
Yes, I'm sure if there's enough,
develop it.
Yeah.
As like what we would call like a trademark, for example.
Yeah.
Trademark Belizean products.
And that was I'm sure if there's enough of those products available, that would be viable and feasible for a business venture. You know what I'm saying? But
so you will find then that you do what we call the vertical integration. That was as far as how we were trying to develop it. And the vertical integration would mean that Belize will be producing it, value added, and then the chain continues by moving it into the US among Belizeans investing over there for the distribution.
Right.
And that is how now you will join these companies together, where they will become either subsidiaries and parent companies. So what you are having now is product from Belize being produced in Belize, but marketed by Belizeans in the US.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's exactly what who I believe is doing that. The wine companies, the winemakers in Belize, they're tapping into that industry now. Um, I had to I had to say I had the opportunity to taste quite some good stuff this weekend, including Kopali, the Kopali brand. They're also distributed. They've also found a distributor here. Um, to market their products, and then also within Belize. One of the
Yeah.
things that I would love to see in the near future, we have here in California at least over 10 Belize restaurants, um, statewide, and I would love to start seeing them bridge that gap with Belizean products,
Yes.
such as the Belizean rums, and market it there. Because, good example, I went to a game at SoFi Stadium. The closest Belizean restaurant nearby is Little Belize, very famous restaurant, not too far from the area. When I got there, I was surprised to see how many of the stadium attendees were at the restaurant eating. But
Yes.
guess what? They were drinking.
Jamaican ginger beer.
Right. I was like, if they were wrong, they could have made, they would have, they would not leave. They would
Yeah.
come back, you know.
Yeah.
Um, if a little lighthouse was there, it'd have been great. So we have to find a way, to figure out how to make those products more vivid in our own communities, because that's where the industry lies within our own community, because we're only bringing it, from Belize in a small packages, 6 pack of this one, or 12 dozen of that. But that's only for you at home. It doesn't get
Yeah.
we don't get to share it outside of the home. So I'm hoping that in the near future, I know I was speaking to one of the winemakers in Belize, and he was adamant about bridging that gap with the Belizean restaurants, in having his product on their shelves available for patrons.
Yeah. We talk about industry and we talk about citing areas of investment. I think about packaging, so that things can be packaged safely and properly, and also bottling and cannery. I don't know how much it costs for those type of industries, but those are definitely the type of infrastructure we need as we start looking at how to produce and to market the products that we have, and could make so abundant. If with the one problem I always face with is that we always have these hurricanes that wreaks havoc on these industry, and so we do need to figure out how to make our infrastructure more climate resilient, and there are ways to do that will take effort. But I'm just saying that as a point. It shouldn't deter us now in terms of looking at these things and looking at these opportunities. But as an investor, those are some of the concern you have. And so, you can't do one and not do the other. We have to be focused on trying to protect that investment, because a lot of time I think the banana industry had gone into belly up because of a hurricane that kind of did a devastating destruction on their crop at one time. So, and as I said, there's no way out on some of these things, but we could definitely start addressing them and look at it holistically and see how we could bring about the investment and the vehicle for setting up those investments.
I am. I have no doubt that when you take what we have here and when you take what is in America, Belize and all. And yes, I think the most important resource that we have is the human resource. I think we have a tremendous amount of it in the US.
Yes.
As I look at Mr. Morrison, I'm looking at an engineer. I take it that you are a civil engineer. Is that Mr. Morrison?
No, I'm electrical.
All right, fine. So I just guessed it, but I'm saying to you that for the industrialization of our country, and Mr. Morrison would be able to speak more authoritatively than I am on it. But I can say for a fact that engineers is what is needed for industrialization. You need your civil engineers, you need your chemical engineers, you need your electrical engineers. As a matter of fact, it was just 3 days ago, I was involved in a consultancy, and we were looking at construction technology, which Mr. Morrison again will be more familiar. And those are things that we need to bring efficiency to the construction industry. But if we continue to go by what older parents wanted us to be, doctors and lawyers and accountants, just white collar workers, we will remain vulnerable to the external shocks of the world, because those kind of professions are needed, but they are not supposed to be so dominant in the society. If you industrialize, we need more the engineers type. We need the more technical people. The construction.
You need to produce. You need to produce a product.
That's right. And I'm saying that we need to restructure, rebuild the mindset of our people to let them understand that it's not just about being a merchant, you can get rich. It's not just about in the hospitality industry, which we are not getting the lion's share of anyhow. But it's about industrializing your country.
Yeah.
And when you're going that way to lessen the external vulnerability, because the truth about it, if you look at the market, the most vulnerable and volatile thing is the commodity market, especially for raw materials. And then when it comes to the hospitality industry, for us as it is, unless we begin to diversify, whenever there is a problem in America, we go down.
Yeah. It's the first thing, because it's a leisure industry, right? So
Right.
it's one of the first things people could forego in hard times.
Exactly. And what we need to do, now that we are I'm mentioning it, is still that's not what I would want to see as the dominant sector of the economy. I believe the strongest sector of this economy, any economy, should be the industrialization part of it, the value added. Not to say you shouldn't have the hospitality industry.
Oh, no.
But right now, the hospitality industry, I believe, represents about 40% of the GDP. That is make us very vulnerable. But again, I'm citing it this way because
we just have to be reminded of COVID.
Yeah, but we can stick to America, yes, but we can go south. We can go south into Central America and into Latin America. But I was thinking again, coming back to Belizeans, that same thing that we were talking. If you begin to work with the diaspora, people, Belizeans, third, fourth generation, we can begin to coordinate, even apart from the industrial side, where we have set up over there people who will promote tourism for Belize as a business. Why do we have Airbnb have to be doing these things when they are getting money from us and they're making good money off Belize? When Belizeans could have been doing it over there. They can make money from Belize by promoting tourism for Belize and become agents and get their commissions.
Right.
So I am just pointing out, we have such wonderful opportunity. We have a lot of talented, skillful people. Talented, and I emphasize talented. Tell the Prime Minister to remember that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Please,
I wanted to go and meet him and tell him we do have talent. If it's not in Belize, we have it here.
If we can document, just as how we maybe have to do it in Belize, but we got a better idea of Belize. But if you begin to get serious about the demographics of Belizeans in the diaspora, you're surprised to know the amount of human resource and capital financial resource over there. And I'm saying it is there. I have my oldest child lives over there. And I know she was at a meeting with Belizeans. And she told me, he said that the people who were there were business people, Belizeans, having businesses.
Yeah.
So we think sometimes that Belizeans are just there working, at a mall or working at a shop or Sometimes, we don't see that there are Belizeans who are entrepreneurs in America.
Yes, many.
That's right.
Many.
So I was just again.
Yeah, I do think talking a little bit though about the preparation for skill set, it does mean that we need to kind of refocus our education platform to kind of recognize that not everyone needs to go and get a college degree. I think even in the United States, people are realizing that.
That's right.
The most people in universities today are women after being denied that kind of entry for so many years. Today, the highest percentage of people in universities are women. So it kind of shows that there's opportunity for everyone in education, and what we need to kind of focus on now is probably just a more technical education that teaches a skill, a trade, so that people can be out, whether it's farming, whether it's carpentry making, whether it's house building, whatever those specific trades are that are crucial for the national development. Because just everyone walking around and say, I have a college degree, I studied economics, I studied whatever they might have studied, but it is so dependent, those particular professions, on a service. What we need is something that will fill the gap for the productive capacity of the country.
That's right. What we did, I was at a meeting where we had when I was in the cabinet. It was like a retreat for reflection, and it was at the island. And what came up there was that we were to go into a 25-year plan, not 5-year, 3-year. But we don't even do 1-year plan now. It was a 25-year plan. And the idea that once we set where we want the country to go in terms of its economic development and other attendant developments, we can then better decide what we want our institutions to do. For example, education, most of all. If you know where you want your country to be eventually, and you do a 25-year plan, like what Taiwan did. Taiwan did the same thing. They were doing 25-year plan. So you know now how your universities are to be geared towards shaping itself towards the economic development of the country. So you will know exactly what are the kind of expertise we need in the next 25 years.
Right.
And then we plan accordingly. So these are the things, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, that it is true that the emphasis is on the diaspora because they have taken the highlight for the weekend or for the last few days. It is very good for Belize. But I think it can awaken the sleeping giant in us too.
Yes. I think that's what it is. And I'm hoping that probably from this, some of the people that had participated that's in the United States, and I think they're going to have one it's not going to be as involved in the UK, but that some of these people could go back and speak to the issue in Belize, of what the experience was, and kind of start bringing the people together in understanding how we could form this cooperation and develop it from there. Because the need is across the board. The need is for us to be one people. I for a long time I didn't use the term diaspora because I just saw myself as a Belizean not living in Belize. It kind of got forced on me over time because everybody else have adopted it, and so I've been using it with a little bit more freedom than I had in the past.
Well, Mr. Morrison, now let me put in a plug for you. I will tell you now how talented and how good of people we are. This gentleman before us comes from a family that I happen to know very well, living on David Avenue. And Mr. Morrison, your father and your mother was one of the finest Belizeans I can say I've met in my life.
Thank you very much, Dave.
So, what I admired about them, we didn't share the same political views in terms of politics.
Yes.
But there was nothing that would have divided us because we didn't see ourselves as PUP and UDPs.
Right.
We saw ourselves as Belizeans wanting to be together.
That's
I always remember your father and your mother for that. And I will send you this now publicly. In the end, I think they voted for me.
My mom probably did.
But when it was said to them that, oh, I hear we're going to vote for you, we're going to vote for PUP.
Well, you,
He said, no, we didn't go to vote for no PUP. We went to vote for Hosekoi.
yeah.
Anyhow, that was a flow. You're comfortable with that. And I was saying to you that
Yes.
I would admire, I'm going back to that past for the reason that I think that some of those values that those people had, it is true that they never get the opportunity to go to university, but they were educating the heart.
Yes.
When the university educate the brain. So I look back on those people and I admire them because it was they who educated our heart. It was not so much the schools. And that's why I mentioned your parents, Mr. Morrison. They were educating our
Thank
heart.
you very much. You know that my mom was the person that valued education more than anything else. She says,
That's right.
she used to say, I didn't get it, but for damn, I'll make sure you get it by hook or crook.
The same thing with my mother. She didn't go on primary school, but they tell me the same thing. Anyhow, I think it is good for us, Lisa, Madam Lisa, I must say,
Yes.
that if we can in fact imbue our people right across the world with that same sense of values that we had in those periods. And that is what I think we will need to bring us together. Human beings, I feel, will tend to follow money. But I think at the end of the day, the values and the sense of values that that generation left us with, which have not endured for reasons that I will not speak on tonight. But we need to bring back those values. That we don't want to be following the money. Follow our hearts, follow our love for each other, and the money will follow us.
True.
That I believe
I
in.
agree.
Let us come together wherever we are for Belize. And I must tell you that I wish I would have been there at your summit and what you had. Again, just to be among you all.
Yes, yes.
Because I always enjoy being with Belizeans when I'm abroad.
I have to tell you, Mr. Koyi and Gregory, for me, this experience is a motivator. This experience have given me another purpose in life, to where my Belizean people are concerned. I met so many wonderful people with great and big ideas, have the same concerns that we all do. It seems like we all share the same, we all come from the same tree. Like we were rooted with the, we were uprooted with the same beliefs, the same understandings, the same and I will say this, not I'll say this spiritually. I mean the spirituality amongst us, and I mean the spirituality in the sense that the love that we all were sharing was in abundance, but each one of us was giving an equal amount of it. um and that I haven't seen in a long time amongst ourselves, and to me that was very special. And as far as, I want to go back to what Gregory was saying about the vocational school. A lot of people don't know this, but I went to vocational school. um, I I went to 4 year. I had a 4 year degree, and I'll tell you very truthfully, my 4 year degree wasn't serving its purpose, and I went to two different vocational schools thereafter, and I have found my niche in what I do today, and I created a business from it, and that's where I am today, and I feel like
Did we lose Lisa?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Go ahead.
I was saying that I wouldn't, had I not had the upbringing from from my mother and my grandfather, where they were like, look, you have an opportunity that your other siblings or cousins will never have. So take advantage while you can. And we were talking about investments. I went to my 4 year school simply from investing at the age of 17. I landed in corporate at a very young age, had no idea what I was going to be doing. I filled out an application at an agency and they sent this little girl off to a stock brokerage firm. I landed in a stock brokerage firm, didn't even know what Wall Street is and was. All I knew is that I had to read what they call a ticker symbols, and read it. I didn't even know how to use the language. I saw 116, and I would be like, "Oh, how do you say that? 1/16." And it was a whole new language, but it was it was something that I was glad to have, and I had, like I said, that is what I used to pay for college. I learned how to invest at an early age. But even with my 4 year degree, I still went to vocational school and and studied nursing. So with the nursing is where I am today. And I've made a profitable business in nursing. And as of today, I am yet to have marketed or advertised the business. It's all been word of mouth. Is how I've sustained a decent living. And so for the listeners out there, we don't all need a 4 year degree. If we do vocational training, skilled training, I think it takes you it takes it will add to who you are and give you purpose in life, and it will sustain life. It does sustain life.
Yeah, and like I said, it puts you on the path where you could work for yourself, like you are, Lisa. If you go and study economics, if you go and study psychology, many of those things just force you to go and work for someone else. So the opportunity is, and then you in those, you're creating a physical product which is using resources, which means that someone has to supply that. You have to market it, you have to produce something and then ship something. So it creates a chain link of activity and economic commerce.
Correct. Mhm. So, and I think the same thing. I actually think that Belize has an industry now, for nursing. It's becoming very prevalent. People are needing care at home. More families are not home. Are not at home to care for grandma and grandpa, or auntie, or the aunties and uncles. So
And
that
and
industry is
on that
really
same point,
interesting.
and that same point, Lisa, I know that, and I heard that at some point people were trying to develop a nursing home type where people from the United States could go to Belize and be cared for, where they're in their healthy, warm atmosphere, tropical atmosphere, and that there was a industry developing that would have these nursing facilities, not for sick people, but for just older
Right,
people.
the assisted living situations. There are independent living
Yes, yes, yes,
atmospheres where,
yes.
where they'll still have uh,
Capability,
the
functional.
capabilities of and functionality of geriatric care, and
Hmm.
they still have some independency and doing their own thing whenever
Hmm.
they want, and come and go as they please. But
Right.
they have the luxury of
Hmm.
a fallback within those facilities or complexes, to
Right.
have a nursing department to give them aid immediately.
Right.
So those things are, so yes, I understand a few doctors are looking into it, and they're trying
Hmm.
to get their investment team together in order
Right.
to facilitate such a venture, and I think it'll be very successful.
I believe so too. I believe it could be quite successful. I'm thinking also, what's going on locally. I understand that there have been some, just moving it back home to Belize a little, there have been some significant rise of crime on the street recently with gang activities. I'm not quite sure what's provoking it, but I heard the commissioner speaking of it just recently, and I'm just wondering if you have some insight into it, Mr. Cowie.
There have definitely been a spite of crimes in the country, to the point now that they have to again implement the SOEs, not the state of emergency.
Right. Yeah. Is that just in specific regions of the country, or is it across in the city, or is it across the entire city?
It is across the country, but it seems to be more pronounced in the west.
Okay.
And in the east city. In fact, we remember they sprayed they shut up the police station in Roaring Creek.
Yeah.
I think it's Roaring Creek, yes.
Yeah.
And then I think they shut at the commissioner of police home.
Yeah.
But those were caught because they were stupid. They had the camera and they were able to pick up the two of them on a motorbike and whatnot. But there has been an increase in crimes, particularly gun crimes, where they are shooting at people.
Yeah.
It's a topic that I believe one time maybe we should begin to look at, because they say sometimes it takes the genius to see the obvious stuff.
Yeah.
But I cannot imagine that we can depend on a police force.
Yeah.
To keep law and order in a society where we did not educate the heart. And I'm coming back to that.
Yes.
We will not be able to maintain law and order where too many people have to be kept upright.
Right.
Law, the hallmark of any civilized society has to be a sense of guilt.
Yeah.
A person will commit sin, they may do something wrong, but if they have the sense of guilt and they accept that it is wrong, that is a vice and not a virtue, there is hope.
Yes.
But when you want to take your vices and make them virtues, then that's the beginning of the end. You will not be able to keep them upright. So I think that the crime is increasing, and the increase of the crime, we need to do a more in-depth, profound analysis. But the reality of a society is that it is the sum of the families.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
But therefore, logically speaking, it has to do then with the family. So what is it that is not being done to try to shape a family, at least with that sense of guilt and that sense of belonging, that sense of collective belonging? And it comes back to what I was saying a while ago about that generation that was educating the heart of us, while the formal education was to educate the brain. So I think that we need to ask ourselves, what is it that we are not doing? Why there is it? And I would say that the ones that were still with the guns, the thing about it is that is one of the crimes that is highly pronounced and accentuated by the society, because that's the one that we see directly and where it has the fatality of killing somebody. But you have the white collar crimes that is also hurting us.
Yes.
It is, because white collar crimes deny our children of opportunities for education, for health.
Yes.
So I'm saying that we need to take a step back. We waited a bit. I would say we waited. I don't say it's too late. It's not too late, but it needs some drastic measures now. And while you are trying to actually confront this kind of criminal grouping, at the same time, you have to begin the program that will begin to reshape the mindset of our people. And that will be, you see, what happened with it is that this thing was insidiously creeping into the society.
Yes.
And we were not giving sufficient attention to it. But until when it reached the point where it becomes like a vicious
epidemic,
that is when it begins to bring our attention. And it's not too late, but it will cost us more.
Yes.
What the losses will be as it is, and what it will take now to shift it back to a virtuous cycle.
Yeah. The problem we have goes back, like you said, to the family. It goes back to education, and then it trickles down to opportunity. So many people, I believe, are unwillingly caught up in it for due to idleness, due to hustle, due to any of those causes, and so um, they themselves are victim of sort. I don't like to just um, think that the real victim is not the people that are being shot or being harmed by the violence, but I could say that these young people, in many instances, they were denied opportunities and training and teaching that would have put them on that path of being upright and responsible citizens. And so we need to step back and see how we could address that. And it is so important to recognize that the white collar criminals contribute to this. And so we need to do a full search of ourselves and the circumstances and try to understand how we could first make sure that resources are available to address the concerns of the young people. And those resources are becomes lacking when we have um, crimes that deprives the nation of its needed resources to address these concerns. And often we see that happens at many part of our governance. And so we need to look at it just through the whole lens of addressing the criminality that probably has some cause at the upper level that trickles down, because when it trickles down, this side of stuff gets even worse.
I think the operative word is opportunity. I fully agree.
Uh-huh.
Because it's not giving you opportunity to be equal, because we won't be. But give
No.
us equal opportunity to be unequal.
Yeah.
Give us, all citizens, children, families, the equal opportunity. So that, yes, we will be unequal, but give us the equal opportunity to be unequal if that we must be.
Mhm.
But I think the opportunity is very, very important. It's maybe lacking.
Yes. 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 I
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lisa.
I was as I was sitting here listening to both you gentlemen, I'm also thinking about the opportunity for those that have, that are in the system. They're already in the system. Um, how much resources, or what type of resources is the justice realm, and that also includes not only the courts, but the parole situation and the prison situation. And most of this would probably fall on the prison aspect. What type of resources are there to rehabilitate some of the white collar crimes, and get some of these young men and women um, back out to society
Well,
with
the white collar crimes, they don't go to prison. They hire an attorney, and they don't even get charged. What ends up going to prison are usually the petty thieves and the criminal element that commit the street mayhem. So
right.
that's
So it's,
that's
yeah,
where
sorry for the correction. Yeah, no, that's what I meant. And I said, and I wanted to say outside of the white collar crimes,
okay.
the smaller crimes, like Mr. Koyi, are you aware of the type of resources they have for these young men and women, especially the juveniles?
You mean resources where in the
It
where
would
there
To kind
within
of
the judicial system or the prison system where they can rehabilitate.
well, let me give you an example of a recent exposure to me within the prison. They found that the people who were there, from maybe not providing the maintenance as the courts had ordered for their children, was costing the prison 71,000 a year. When the children to whom the money should have been given, they would have gotten far less than the 71,000 if they were to have given what they should have gotten. So I am stating to you now, how we deal with crime is that it's not just to be punitive in my judgment, but it has to be rehabilitative. And then it has to be considerate. Let's look at the people who were put to prison because during the period they were not wearing the mask.
Yeah.
Now we understand how important it is to make sure that you wear the mask. But what I'm finding, and we are doing some exercise right now with some legislation, that is through our institute, and the issue of penalty comes up. Now, penalty is not something that I think is in the realm just of lawyers or legal minds. Penalty is something that's supposed to be in the minds of us all, especially those who understand human behavior. Because the penalty is only to be such to serve hopefully as a deterrent. But you cannot have a draconian penalty that will have just a
cause harm. Yeah, that cause harm.
So I will say that when you mention the prison, I agree that those are areas that we have to stop the, what they call it, the recidivism. I think that's the word.
Yes.
You're just going back. You come out and you go back. But there is something, I think, even bigger than that. And I think we need to, again, be prepared to revisit our budget. It is a matter of now, how are we allocating the budget? If we continue to allocate such high percentage for capital investment, for example, roads and bridges, etc., which we need.
Correct.
Imagine you are building a house, but you build a fence where the cost of the fence is almost 50% of the house. That doesn't make sense. So when you look at the human resource costs to the public sector, we are somewhere around over 60% for human resource, which includes salaries and pensions and gratuities and etc. etc.
Yeah.
I believe that the budget needs to be reviewed for the sake of better allocation of the resources. So when we talk of the opportunities, as Mr. Morrison spoke about, it is those opportunities the government should begin to look as to how we're going to distribute this budget. Why give 60% or more to human resource? We don't really need to give that amount. Because what is happening, we didn't take the right size the public sector. So there are millions of dollars right there that is going to no use for the society, to the betterment of our society. And that's to mention one of them. But then when you ask yourself, how much are we really putting into not just the money going into education, not going into health, but how much are we prepared to begin to be more result-oriented? Result-oriented is more to not look at just your inputs and your outputs, but you have to measure how that output impacted the results. So you can be pumping millions and millions of dollars into education.
Yes.
But if you don't have it properly planned, and as we were talking about earlier, for a country, for a, let's say a 25-year development plan, you will then better know how to invest into education. And so it is with other sectors of our economy. If you find out that a large amount of the cost of human capital is coming from road accidents, which is pretty high.
Yeah, it's very high.
Then it means that the millions that it is costing you, if we invest more or less than that to reduce the amount of road accidents, it will evidently have first, the human capital will be improved, the cost on the health system will be reduced, and we will have more efficient and productive people. So every time we are spending, we don't seem to be putting too much into the output and the results of that output. And that is the kind of budgeting, what I call performance budgeting, we need to begin to address.
Yeah, we do need to start looking at that type of analysis. And, you know, I remember one of the things the Prime Minister had got in trouble with was talking about the teachers and we're not getting, and I think we clearly understand what he wanted to say or what he intended to say, and he got a lot of push and crush on it. But we do need to make sure that our educational system is efficient and that it's transferring the knowledge from the teachers to the students, and that we're achieving the results, and through the way we measure it is through testing, so that we're getting the results through the testing, and that also in the character development, or what the kids are learning, because the education process, like you said, shouldn't just be educating the mind. It should somehow be part of educating the heart and our capacity to expose our humanity towards each other.
Not only that, I mean, something that was brought up over the weekend here was also allocating a budget for school sports, getting the children in active into athletics in the secondary and tertiary level of schooling, because we have statistics that show how important extracurricular activities such as sports enhances the growth of many of the students, as well as extracurricular activities in scholastic programs. I mean, here we have the decathlon teams and so forth. I understand that Belize have the robotics team, and they have all these STEM programs in different parts of the country. So that was something else that was brought up here at the summit. How can we enhance and how can we bridge that gap with the Ministry of Education, with some of the folks here, to educate our kids outside of just the normal curriculum of with schooling, with the educational system. So all of those things I think needs proper revision when it comes to budgeting, and I think we got to start now. We are looking at a small country in Belize where there will be where an uprise is due to take course if we don't put a stop, or at least discuss it and put some measures in place before that happens.
Yeah, you brought up a good point, Lisa. Health benefits from sports is important, and it's a character trait that lives with people through the rest of their lives. We have so much issues with health, and we talked about proper food and nutrition and stuff, and growing our own food, and having consideration for that. Those are all important, and recognizing that contributing to sport is not necessary. It's not a waste at all. It is contributing to a more healthy society. It helps them both in terms of scholastic, a clearer mind. It helps them in terms of health factors like obesity or diabetes or any of those other traits that are so common. And so we should start looking at it in a way and trying to, as Mr. Coy say, find a way of having it account and being able to say, by doing these things, it costs us so much, but here are the benefits that we're gaining as a society, as a people from it. And they are measurable. You can measure them. You can measure how much your healthcare budget went down because you have a more healthy population. You have a measure that you don't have the recidivism rate for prison because people are involved in sports and they're finding positive things to do with their lives. So it is crucial.
Yeah, we have to find a medium where everyone has where everyone serves their intellectual purpose, or their scholastic purpose in nurturing a healthy adult. And a healthy adult meaning someone who can become a leader of tomorrow, someone who can teach tomorrow. Someone, someone someone, anyone in a professional state that will be able to give growth to a new generation. So I think that's, if that's the purpose and the vision that we want to look at, we got this, we got to start somewhere, and just by us discussing it today, I think we'll have a better understanding and how to go about and getting it done.
Well, I think what I think maybe we should be looking at, and again, I'm speaking now as a chartered accountant. When I got a public service in 1961, it was very much under the control of the British. We never even had self-government. And it is true that the budget was still somewhat of an input-oriented budget. So much money went into it, so much money came out. And at the end of the year, the audit was to be what you call a compliance probity audit. So it was just to audit to make sure that if $1 million was allocated for something, the $1 million was in fact spent and it was spent for that. And that was the end of it.
Yeah.
That was so then because 46, 70 years ago, government is a welfare-oriented entity, not like the private sector, which is profit-oriented. No, we found out long ago how we can measure profit. We knew how to measure profit. We knew how to put in revenue and expenditures. We knew how to do assets, liabilities, etc. We knew that long ago for the private sector. But it was some time after when the public sector, welfare-oriented as it is, they developed techniques to be able to do output results-oriented budgets.
Yes.
And that came about, I would say, back in the 70s, 80s. I was at one of the first conferences that was held at the United Nations and Good Governance and Sustainable Development. It was the first the United Nations have ever held. I was invited and I went. We spent a week there. And it was there that they began to introduce this Good Governance and Sustainable Development. And the then Minister of Finance from New Zealand, a very robust and very powerful woman, very sharp and intelligent. She gave one of the lectures. New Zealand had been one of the first to make the move to go to accrual accounting and to develop performance budget to be looked at results rather than just outputs. So today, we have mastered that. We can now measure the governmental performance. So you don't have to say, well, listen, you want to measure the performance of the fire department? All right, let's light some houses fire and let's out them. It's not that what you need to do because we can measure it. We can measure the performance of a fire department. We can measure the performance of health and education. We can do it. We have the tools to do it today.
Yes.
So I am saying then that if we look first at how we're going to allocate the budget, first we right-size the public sector, and we take another look at the budget in terms of a 25-year development plan. And it is then that we begin to do the allocation, and then we move towards the performance budgeting.
Yeah. The problem I think we have had is that successive government, when they come back, when we have these projection and visionary plan for 25 years, they just get scrapped by the next government because they don't want to carry that policy. And I think the people needs to buy into these objectives, and then we could hold the government of the day accountable to fulfilling those, because it's not a party objective, it's a national and a people's objective that we're working on when we start developing those. So whichever government start putting those together, we need to make sure that it's truly representative and desirous of what the citizens want.
That was highlighted at that meeting as one of the reasons why there was waste in countries where the two parties were so opposed that they could never bring the democratic efficiency. Right. When they were changing government, everything changed. And it was a lot of waste. Countries many of them were, especially sad to say, they were in Africa.
Right.
And the bitterness between the two parties is that when the other one comes in, everything is changed. Now, if you're going to have a new health policy for your country, that is to go into the future. So you cannot change that when you change government. If you're going to plan your educational system to suit the 25-year development plan, then you cannot change what you... Now, what you can do is that when you change government, the objective remain the same based on the democratic efficiency through bipartisan support.
Yes.
Developing the plan. So when you are developing the 25-year plan, you can't have the majority party doing it. You have to be with the minority.
Yes.
So if you have that, then you're more likely to get the democratic efficiency.
Right.
That you know the policy you're putting in place
will be sustained.
That policy will be sustained.
Right.
The challenge won't be in the political field, in the partisan competitiveness. Which one of us can do it better?
Right.
It's not which one. You know what? The choice of the lesser of two evils.
Yes.
And hopefully bring us to the choice between the better of two good. So it's a case now that we all know where we want to go. The whole country. We know where we want to go. Now, who is best capable of getting us there? And that is what we'll be voting for.
Exactly. We have just a couple minutes more. Lisa, do you have any points you'd like to close out with?
No, I think, well, first of all, thank you, viewers and audiences, for tuning in to our show tonight. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have G Mike with us this evening. He's out on site and had some trouble with connecting with us. So with the internet. So we apologize for his absence. He will be with us next week, and I will be visiting our producer next week. So I will be doing the show from New York, guys. So here,
wonderful.
So we will get to see me from New York next week, and I'm wishing everyone
So you mean it's not gonna be a still picture like we have? We'll have you interactive.
We're not gonna see a still picture because I won't be at work. I'll be in the studios with CY.
Wonderful.
Let me just end by saying, Lisa, although your picture doesn't seem to be animated, but your thoughts were highly animated. I must congratulate you too on what you have been doing. When I came on the show first, quite frankly, I may have been somewhat disruptive unknowingly, because I wasn't aware that you were giving us a synopsis of what had happened. And then the more I listened to you, the more I realized you must have done a very good job. And I must congratulate you on all of those who brought us together over that period. And Mr. Chairman, no, you are the new chairman of the show for tonight, but we need to now find our chairman and bring him back.
Yes. and I thank everyone for tuning in this evening, and we leave you with blessings and thanks.
Good
night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, gentlemen.
Good night.
Brim, now it's the dread she call it when she need sexual healing.
Crossover dribble through the middle. Time play like a idiot, someone like a fiddle. Hey. And fool tell Bones say how see why talk too fast. Bones telling they have to listen slow. This is not Ties R Us, my own. You better fetch it to Saros, or a little help from your friend the right Nazarus. Don't stare directly into the light, or your brains will be clouded with cordite. I'll make your head nod like birds in flight, or like the way honeys be acting when they doing it right. Open all night, I'm scribing novels, pour syrup over whack MCs cause they waffle. I'm keeping them baffled, get supplied with toxic tracks that'll make them marvel at the bass's decibel. No cure, everyone is susceptible to this technique, permeating this new millennium. You so far underground, I need sonar to locate your sound. My stilo is hard but sweet like Polgo round. Pandominium, even if I was just a hum. Higher echelon, this is stressing in meta-desolate section of your cranium. Step upon this icon, magnate, mortar, distant star, illuminating this here rat's fear, piercing the darkness. Don't give up your day job to venture into my wilderness. I chew up furloughs like cigar at the Preakness, locating your weakness, then lock on. I'm feeling like the stealth. When the night raids over Iran, you may try to borrow, thinking your last name is Salam, but my mission is to seek and destroy. So, listen up. Bye. Listen up. I started with one step, but I journeyed for miles. Now I am the franchise. Kick back, check the NASDAQ, watch my stock rise. Like Mercury in July on the east side, taking fools to their untimely demise. Besides, on an asteroid I ride to places where few true scholars reside. Instead of dropping rhymes, you dropping nickels and dimes. With a click in time, murder 9. Hawaiian necktie before you commit the unspeakable crime. Making rap waters murky, herky-jerky. Sucking up the boys' flow like it was a Slurpee. I've got unparalleled vintosity. I'm keeping it real so real could keep it for me. Pulling your whole card, show everybody you dirty. Then leave you lying in a state of purgatory.
Touch the try twerk. Mission impossible. Know about yours. Incredible, lovable, adorable, respectable. Not because me know soul wide open means semi-gullible. Oh. Girl, daddy bubble, that the thing, they get we in a trouble. You have not a dread, this is doubles. Hit the bottom like an apple. Girl, daddy bubble, that the thing, they get we in a trouble. You have not a dread, this is double. Hit the bottom like an apple. Watch when me pull out me needle, sink it deeper than a bow weevil. Brand you with the bliss.